Welcome everybody to the webinar series. And tonight we are going to revisit a webinar that we did back in June 18th. Will, thanks for joining us again. And it's great to have you and the panel here. To catch everybody up to speed, we spoke with Will back in June about the STEM to Stern program. And at the time, I think everybody was looking for an outlet and ways to get to make our boathouses more diverse. And Will, you actually had a tangible plan, like something that was working. And since then, it's actually growing even faster and bigger than it was. It was impressive in June, right? And I think what I was just saying a couple minutes ago is since the webinars and since the summer, randomly people will call me and say, hey, did you ever find out any answers or any solutions? Or did you ever find out what works or some ideas? And yours is one of these concepts that works. And I also think that the idea of that you came up with is adaptable and flexible to work in a lot of other different ways too. So I think that's really amazing. So if people are listening and they say, hey, well, that sounds great, Will, but I can't do that here. I think if you just open up a little bit wider, there's a lot of ways that you can apply STEM to Stern to wherever you are, whatever boathouse you're in. So what I'm hoping to do, Will, if you would introduce your friends here and say a little bit, and guys, if you all want to jump in and say a little bit about yourself, it'd be great to learn a little bit more.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. And I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Chris, when we spoke last in June, you're right. We had a program up and running in Milwaukee, and that the STEM to Stern program was alive and well. Since then, we have built an entire STEM to Stern team. We've assembled a STEM to Stern board. We have added a number of clubs from around the country to the STEM to Stern network. And what we do is we help rowing programs put in place support systems to ensure that athletes coming from underserved communities are given access, the same type of access to rowing clubs and STEM that a lot of kids with who have the privilege to participate on rowing teams have already. And so what we have done is we've identified some major barriers to participation in rowing: transportation, lack of representation, swimming competency, the educational gap. And we've identified some major barriers. And, when I talk to rowing programs that say, hey, this may not work here or here or here, typically the barriers are largely the same around the country. The barriers are in a lot of ways very similar. And so what we do is we help rowing clubs address those barriers in creative new ways. And that's really what the program is. So I'm going to pass it off to Evan Miller. Evan is our community director. And if you want to just introduce yourself, Evan.
All right, certainly. Thank you, Will. So like Will mentioned, I'm the community director for STEM to Stern. In this role, I'm mostly the first point of contact for many of the partner clubs, and I oversee the community aspect of the program. We're currently working with Milwaukee Rowing Club, Mendota Rowing Club, Sarasota Scullers, PNRA Mercer, Baltimore Community Rowing, Washtenaw Rowing Club, Narragansett Boat Club, Tacoma Rowing, Olympic Peninsula Rowing Association, and Camp Randall Rowing Club. In addition to those teams, there are also several clubs that we're working to integrate as STEM to Stern partner clubs. One of the aspects of our program that we kind of recognize as being really important early on is creating a community for our partner clubs and extended network. We recently began hosting regular calls with partner clubs to keep everyone updated on each club's progress as we sort of grow and expand across the country. With that, Rachel and I are also in the you'll meet Rachel soon. Rachel and I are also in the process of building out a platform for the community and network members to sort of use to connect, because we found that a lot of the clubs that we're working with may run into similar issues when scaling, like Will mentioned, with those certain barriers to entry that they face. And we thought that sort of having a way for all community members and network members to connect would be extremely important to share updates, advice, and information on basically how they're connecting with their community and growing their STEM to Stern program.
Cool. And guys, I think if we could just do like Evan, I really appreciate that. I wanna kind of, if we can just first introduce everybody and then kind of jump into the nitty gritty of like each person's role, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm happy to introduce myself. My name is Greg Hughes. I'm the head heavyweight men's coach at Princeton, and I'm significantly newer to stem to stern than everybody else on this call. We just started chatting with Will after doing a little bit of research on some ideas for programs that we could start here with our Princeton athletes and in conjunction with PNRA. And so we first started talking, I guess maybe 6 months ago, and it's been an awesome relationship, and I'm excited to get it going.
My
Hi,
name
everybody.
is.
Oh, go ahead, Sam. You go.
My name is Sam Wheeler. I'm the operations coordinator for STEM to Stern. So I kind of just fill in where needed. And lately, I've been working on fundraising and helping the new Madison branch. Rachel?
Hey, guys. My name is Rachel Hunter, and I've been involved in STEM to Stern since back in 2018 when we first started the program in Milwaukee. At the time, I was a college student at the Milwaukee School of Engineering, and Will and I connected because our D3 college rowing program rose out of the Milwaukee Rowing Club. And I started working with Will and started working with the program. And my involvement largely was in developing and delivering the STEM curriculum for the STEM to Stern program, as well as organizing the student volunteer base. And in Milwaukee, the volunteer base that we have is our collegiate rowing program. So that was kind of a cool opportunity to not only, be able to teach the kids, but then also provide the mentorship connection between our collegiate rowers and the middle school students. Additionally, now I am the STEM director for STEM to Stern National, which is really exciting to see the different ways that STEM curriculum kind of is shaped all around the country. And then I also do a lot of our marketing and social media. So I'll throw it over to Melissa for our last intro, and then we can get started.
Hey everyone, I'm Melissa Austin. I am a master's rower at Mendota Rowing Club. I'm on our board of directors, and I have a junior rower at Camp Randall. And I am the Madison lead for the STEM to Stern program here in Madison, Wisconsin. So we are the early adopters of the program before it was a program, and I'm really excited to tell you a little bit more about that after when we get to it. So yeah, thanks for having us here. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. So Chris, if it's okay, maybe I'll just kind of give a little bit of an overview of the program, kind of what it is for those who may not know, and then I'll also give an update on the Milwaukee STEM to Stern program. So really, STEM to Stern, the goal of STEM to Stern, like I said, is to provide to really just create a level of access and support so that kids are able to participate on competitive rowing teams. The STEM to Stern program is not a separate outreach program. It's not anything other than giving a way to kids to be able to participate in club activities. So middle school rowing is really where we start, and the STEM to Stern program basically is a number of different components that kind of create the whole thing. So the first thing that STEM to Stern is it's a partnership between a rowing club and a community organization or a school. And we found that those relationships between the rowing club and a network of individuals who are already working with kids that you're looking to serve is really important. So that's kind of the first component of STEM to Stern. The second thing is transportation. Transportation is such a privilege that a lot of kids do not have access to. It's, a lot of kids don't have cars to drive to practice. They may be coming from a single family household with a parent working at 4 p.m. during practice. And so transportation is a really critical part to the STEM to Stern program. On top of that is swimming competency. You guys can Google, there are just some insane studies that show that I think it was Black kids between the ages of I think it was like 8 and 15 are like 5 times more likely to drown than white kids of that same age. And swimming, just like transportation, is such a privilege as well. But it's a necessary skill to have to be on a rowing team. And so, in order to set our kids up for success on the water, we need to make sure that they know how to swim too. So, swimming is a key component of the STEM to Stern program. On top of that, that's really all rowing focused stuff. And, it really doesn't matter in a lot of ways how good a kid is on the water, good at, they are at being a teammate and all that stuff. There is a real education gap in our country. And, we want to make sure that we are setting our kids up for long-term success through high school on into hopefully college and beyond. So, in order for us to address some of the educational barriers as well, we've added STEM, and it's such an important part that it is in the name. It is the STEM to Stern program. We found STEM education to be, and I'll have Rachel, Rachel will be talking in just a little bit about this, but such an amazing, engaging way to, get kids thinking creatively and outside the box. So, yeah, after that, it's a rowing club that really is committed to seeing things change. This will not ever be a program for a rowing club that is passive on, on diversity, is passive on integrating their club. It's a lot of work to run a program like this, but we have found that it is the best way and most effective way to really create equity at rowing clubs. So, but yeah, I mean, if it's really for rowing clubs that are committed to seeing their club and their team become more diverse, become more integrated, and more accessible. After that, it's a volunteer base. The STEM to Stern program relies heavily on volunteers who come from all over. They could be, masters rowers, collegiate rowers, non-rowers, you name it. We've worked with volunteers from all walks of life, and so that's a huge component as well. The last two, it's food. The food is a big component of STEM to Stern, and Sam will get into this in a little bit, but we had a sponsor who heard about the STEM to Stern program a couple months back. The CEO of 88 Acres out in Boston reached out to us and said, "This is a cool program. I see that food is a necessary component of this. I want to sponsor STEM to Stern programs nationally, every STEM to Stern kid with healthy granola bars, healthy, butters and things like that." So yeah, we've been fortunate enough to have some amazing sponsors, and that's but that's a key component. And lastly is financial support. So this is actually, we help clubs work to fundraise. It can be expensive working for, paying for transportation or swimming lessons or STEM materials, things like that. And so, yeah, but really these 8 components in a nutshell create the STEM to Stern program. And so what we do is we have a team of 5 people, and each club that is part of the, that has a STEM to Stern program is designated 2 of our team members to basically put together to kind of help put together the program in whatever community with whatever club that we're working on. So that's a little bit about the program kind of as a whole. I run the Milwaukee Rowing Club STEM to Stern program, and that is like it's for me really like a pride and joy to see this program on the ground floor, really bringing kids from all over our city together. Milwaukee is one of the most segregated cities in the United States. But Tuesdays and Thursdays at the Milwaukee Rowing Club, we have kids from all over our city. About half of our kids come from our STEM to Stern program. We have about 50 middle school kids total. Around 25 are coming from our STEM to Stern program, and then around 25 are coming from Milwaukee suburbs. At the Milwaukee Rowing Club, we show up to practice, and it is the most diverse middle school team probably in the entire country at this point. And what we do at rowing is we make, we are a competitive high school team. We travel the country, the Milwaukee Rowing Club. We try to go to nationals and try to compete at the highest level. But our middle school program is really designed to give kids a taste of what rowing is like. And so we, it's about building relationships. It's about all sorts of the kind of the fun aspects of rowing. And we've just seen some incredible friendships develop, friendships that wouldn't have been possible if it weren't for STEM to Stern. So breaking the barriers of entry into rowing clubs has really allowed our program to flourish. We don't even need to do any promotional things. We are at capacity for our STEM to Stern program season after season, and kids bring their friends and kids bring their siblings. And we're now at a point where our middle school kids are coming up to the high school team. And what's been so amazing is we have had better retention with kids who participated in STEM to Stern moving up to our competitive high school team than we have actually the rest of our middle school kids moving up. So I think it really goes to show that if a rowing club can address some key barriers, they can really make an impact in their community and open their boathouse up to a much broader demographic. So I think that's, we're really excited for spring. We're, looking forward to all that good stuff. And, there have been challenges with COVID and all sorts of stuff, but our STEM to Stern program is one of the coolest things at the Milwaukee Rowing Club for sure. So I think Rachel, are you good? Or actually, you know what, Evan, can you kind of go back and touch a little bit more on kind of how we grew and the clubs that we're working on and we're working with right now?
Yes, certainly. So to sort of circle back to what I was mentioning before, really we started, like Will mentioned, the program started in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and this past summer, Melissa reached out to Will to kind of interested in growing the program in Madison, Wisconsin at Mendota Rowing Club. And I'd say it was probably within a month or so, they were already set up and had 2 summer camp week-long sessions going for STEM to Stern, and actually retained some of the student athletes throughout the year. So that was really sort of the first time that STEM to Stern had left the immediate Milwaukee area. Since then, it's grown to, I believe I read off 10 teams earlier, and we, like I mentioned, we continue to gain interest from clubs all across the country, reaching out to express interest in sort of figuring out what we're doing to create sustainable change at rowing clubs and continue to diversify the sport. And it's really rewarding to kind of give back to the community and everything. And we really want to foster an environment where everyone is sort of able to share those ideas for how they think STEM to Stern can continue to improve upon their mission and basically bring rowing to every community everywhere and make it as accessible as possible.
And Evan, could you just maybe talk about like how rowing clubs kind of go about reaching out and starting a program?
Certainly. So like I mentioned, sometimes typically it's me reaching out with Will CC'd on emails to teams that we think might be interested or would be great fits for a STEM to Stern program, or even, and we've noticed a lot of teams reaching out through Instagram or social media that Rachel's running, sort of expressing an interest in seeing what we're doing to kind of increase diversity in the sport. So typically from that, we try to schedule a meeting, hop on a call, at least a couple of members of our team, just to sort of sit down and walk through the 8 components of our program and the steps that we sort of go about to implement the program at rowing clubs. And generally from there, we kind of wait to hear back until the club knows exactly how they'd be able to fit STEM to Stern into their club in their mission, and we work with them from that point to sort of build their program. And it's not necessarily the same at every club. Every club kind of functions a little bit differently, just based on access to transportation, or basically even stuff as simple as accessibility to college students. But our team sort of works and adapts to make the STEM Stern model fit basically anywhere.
Awesome. Let's pass it over to Rachel. Rachel, can you maybe talk about as the STEM director of STEM to Stern, kind of what your role is and kind of the importance of STEM?
Sure. So one of the goals of STEM to Stern is to change the face of rowing. And one of the ways that we aim to do that is by building well-rounded student athletes. And I think that when you compete in a sport in, middle school, high school, and especially college, being a well-rounded student athlete is something that there's a really big emphasis put on it. But a lot of the students that we are working with come from communities that don't have strong educational systems. They don't have opportunities for extracurricular STEM instruction or STEM activities. And that's kind of where supplementing the athletic component of rowing with any type of educational activity can really benefit our students in the long run. Because ultimately, you need to start building those foundational academic skills in middle school in order to set the students up to be successful in high school and eventually in either college or whatever they choose to do post high school. And the way that STEM to Stern fits into that is we work with each club and each program to build a unique curriculum that fits around the resources available at that club and what the needs of the students are. And we've kind of developed a tiered structure that helps to kind of isolate what are maybe some core competencies that are not being met in certain areas, and what can we do to help tailor the curriculum to really give the most benefit to those students. And a way that we do that is by providing, tailored STEM activities that can help target things like problem solving and critical thinking, while also providing fun opportunities for them to build those skills. So we have kind of built out step-by-step curriculums that our programs are able to use that helps them kind of walk through those introductory STEM activities so they're not so intimidating if you don't have as much experience delivering STEM instruction. And STEM can be a really broad term, but part of the reason that we have STEM integrated into our program is because in the world today, STEM is part of everything. There are very few things that do not have some element of STEM in them. And that's why it's important to give students, especially at the middle school level, the foundational skills to be successful. And having successful STEM-based skills will benefit you in any career that you choose to have. So that's kind of why we chose STEM and why we push it so heavily when it comes to the educational side of our program. Something I did also want to mention is that in addition to the STEM programming, after our clubs have had time to kind of develop the more fun activities, we have a model set up so that way they can actually start working with students in like a one-on-one educational tutoring situation. And this is something that we've piloted in Milwaukee and has also been successful at Mendota and the Madison clubs, is students are actually able to work with the college volunteers to work on their homework, to learn on skills they might be lacking. And that has been another really beneficial component of our program because it just builds on those foundational skills again and gets more positive reinforcement in areas that students are struggling in. Will, did you want me to talk about social media now too, or you want me to do that later?
Yeah, just like if you can also just kind of talk a little bit about like how important that has actually kind of been for us, that'd be great.
Yeah. So social media, the ways that you can work with STEM to Stern, and I'll put our information in the chat, is we have a website that has a lot of information about our program and about our team. We also have an Instagram and a Facebook page. And those have all been really awesome ways that clubs that are interested in STEM to Stern have connected with us, because we've had people reach out to us on Instagram and say they're interested in starting a STEM to Stern program. We've had people reach out on the website. And it's a really good way for you to stay connected with our programs and what's going on in every STEM to Stern club, because each club has their own individual network, and STEM to Stern is a really great way to bring all those networks together. And it's really inspiring to not only see, what all the clubs we're involved in are doing, but there are a lot of really amazing initiatives right now for social justice in the rowing community. And social media is a really cool way to see all of those in one place. And we're really excited to be a part of that. It's a great way for you to connect with us. It's a great way for us to connect with you. So check us out. I'll put our links in there, and we look forward to talking to you guys.
Cool. Thank you, Rachel. All right, so yeah, Sam, let's move over to you, and if you could talk a little bit about kind of the fundraising side and some of the the more logistical parts of the program, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. STEM to Stern, our entire goal is to create sustainable programs around the nation. And to do that, we leverage national and local partnerships and sponsorships. That includes our sponsorship with 88 Acres to completely cover food for all students nationwide. And it also includes our other sponsors such as JL and Concept 2, who provide equipment that kids need, ergs, oars, whatever it may be, to ensure that clubs around the nation have the resources they need to carry out our vision.
Sam, can I just so everybody is kind of completely aware, JL has sent 200 pairs of rowing trow and 150 rowing tanks to STEM to Stern to distribute amongst STEM to Stern programs around the country. And so that's gear that kids may not have access to, and now they're going to have like some really nice rowing stuff, like JL as one of the kind of faces of rowing. It's a really cool thing for the kids to be able to have. And on top of that, just to mention even more on Concept 2, they have they're sending 10 ergs to 5 different programs around the country that are doing STEM to Stern. And they're also, they've sent out a bunch of oars as well. So it's just been so incredible to see the support from not only the clubs around the country, but also the corporate sponsors around the country who are kind of seeing, our vision and our goals and are really wanting to support us. So just wanted to put that into a little more detail there, Sam, but yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Will. And in addition to those sponsorships, we're also looking for national corporations to basically provide money towards an endowment so that we can continue to coordinate and consult with programs around the nation, lending our expertise that we have learned starting a program in Milwaukee. Our whole program in general is very adaptable and scalable, and it has allowed us to kind of put it into a box and ship it wherever it needs to be. In addition to those national partnerships and sponsorships, there is a very strong local focus. That's mostly for volunteers. We'll look at community centers such as YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, as well as local universities like we have in Milwaukee and Madison. College students are great volunteers. They provide great mentorship. They are great coaches, great role models, and we wouldn't be able to operate without them. Next, we also leverage local partnerships for swimming lessons and transportation. Places like the Boys and Girls Club have vans already, so they can help us out getting kids where they need to be. And then they also have ties, very close ties to the community. If I were to go into a middle school and tell a bunch of kids that they should try rowing, they probably are going to be like, "What's that? Who cares? I'm not going to do that." So having a teacher, or a coach, anyone who knows those kids personally, goes a long way into getting them to try new things. Lastly, fundraising, it's really about who you know, and making those fantastic connections. And thankfully, there's a lot of very, very successful rowers out there who all appreciate the skills and abilities they gain from rowing, both physical and mental. And they see the importance of sharing that with everyone. So we've been able to see a lot of success in getting people on board with our mission. And exploiting the connections that we've made to get meetings and pitch our ideas and create as many programs as we can. Will, did I miss anything?
No, I think just to kind of add on, you know, we have kind of now like created the STEM to Stern like suite of materials. We have flyers for parents and kids, and we have you know, permission slips. We have kind of put together this whole, like, you know, we have facilitator training, we have rowing training, we have the STEM to Stern handbook training, we have you know, kind of assembled like a, you know, what we have seen to be, you know, we want this to be as doable as possible for clubs. And so the more corporate sponsors we have that are supporting, you know, through uniforms and donations and food and things like that, and the more that we can offer as far as knowledge and experience, and, you know, instead of going through the same mistakes that, you know, may have been made in the past, doing things the right way the first time and really seeing results. And that's really what we've tried to create, and you know, what we now have. So yeah, just wanted to add on to that, Sam, just a little bit. So Melissa, may we kick it over to you? Melissa Austin was really the impetus. She was the one to really take initiative in Madison and to reach out initially to expand STEM to Stern out of Milwaukee and into a new community. And so Melissa, you are a powerhouse. We are so thrilled that you are you know, that you are the one who's you know, boots on the ground at the Mendota program. And yeah, if you could just kind of talk a little bit about STEM to Stern and kind of how it started and where it is today, and sort of maybe some of the challenges that you guys have overcome, that'd be awesome.
Happy to share. Thanks for that intro, Will. Geez. I'm going to let you down here. So I was thinking about, you know, as we were talking about presenting tonight, of like how, you know, kind of went back in history, which wasn't that long ago. I went back a year to find kind of what was the catalyst for all of this. And I found the Facebook post that I put up, and I'm going to read it to you because US Rowing put up a post about a most beautiful thing. And this is what I said. It's quite possibly my life's mission to focus on creating much broader access to rowing, especially junior rowing in Madison, because as cliche as it sounds, everyone who does it will tell you it's changed their lives. Some will tell you it saved their lives. There's nothing like it. So I posted that on January 15th. One of my teammates jumped right in and was like, what are we going to do? Let's do, you know, we had no idea about STEM to Stern. And then, as luck would have it, Katie Reeder, who is Will's aunt and Will's mom's sister, tagged Will and tagged his mom, Heather, in that post. And I could just say the rest is history. But so 3 of us from Mendota met with Will's mom, Heather. This was like right before we got locked down and COVID. So we were actually able to meet in person. This was probably a week or so after this post. And Heather just walked us through all of the details and all of the things that have been happening at the Milwaukee Rowing Club in the last 4 years. And it was just, it was so inspiring to hear how just from 10,000 feet, like whatever needed to happen, they did it. There was not much talking, lots of doing. And it was just like, there's no reason why we can't do this in Madison. So 3 of us from Mendota took that information and we knew because of COVID, we were going to be limited in what exactly we could plan. You know, I'm preaching to the choir here in terms of like programming and things like that. But we did know one thing we needed to do after we kind of heard how the program was structured in Milwaukee. One of the key things that we did was do we all work full time and we're volunteers, but we did do a community needs assessment. So it's that process by which you kind of reach out to people you already know, because we didn't have a lot of time for like relationship building. I've been in Madison for 25 years. My teammate Lila has been here her whole life. So we leveraged those relationships, and we really wanted to talk about, you know, like match the gap between perceived needs and then like actual like expressed needs in the community. And so what we learned is like around transportation, the community centers that we would be reaching out to or that we had conversations with, they all have transportation. So we're like, okay, solved for now. We're just trying to solve for the next. I mean, I can't plan for a year from now, but solve for this moment. We have MSCR here, which is Madison School and Community Rec. So it's rec department. They have an extraordinarily robust swimming program. So solved for now, swimming. So this is as we're trying to think, okay, all right, now what do we do? And so we had a little pause because everything sort of went haywire, but then we were fortunate enough to kind of rev back up in Mayish or June, connected with Evan and Will, and we just said we're going to do this. I'm still on the board. I don't know how, because it was all forgiveness before permission. I'm not going to lie. I own that. I'll name it right here. I did not ask anyone about this. So Evan was the captain of the UW men's team at the time and was instrumental in getting UW athletes on board. Will helped with some training and some structure. Like, you have to remember, STEM to Stern, like the National STEM to Stern was evolving as we were planning this. So the cart was before the horse the whole time. And I mean, it was great. Like I kind of live like that because it's just how I operate. So as soon as Evan reached out to those UW athletes, they jumped on board. It was the most serendipitous thing I think I've ever experienced, because anyone who's ever done volunteer recruitment for anything, you know how hard it is to get volunteers, to get people to buy in, to get people to show up. The UW athletes self-organized into two teams, one who worked with Rachel on STEM, one who worked with Will and our coaches, our junior coaches, on rowing. And it's like they magically appeared. So we just decided we were going to do, we had to kind of see how the summer went. So we had our regular junior learn to rows, and those were going pretty well. It was the summer of the singles, because everything was shut down here. We were in singles only, no exceptions. So August 17th and August 24th, we're like, we're going to have STEM to Stern learn to row. And people are like, what? Like, yeah, we're going to do that. And so we had a couple different organizations, a couple different community organizations that that I had connections with, and my teammate Lila had connections with, and we had those two organizations send out information about the 2 weeks. And just a small point of note, throughout this, there have been people who've asked, how come you're not reaching out to everyone? How come you're not just, doing this, this, and this? And so for us, because of the way Madison is because of the way Madison is, it's very important for us to have committed long-term relationships with community partners. So it's more beneficial for the growth of this program and for like the greater good, as they say, I would rather have 2 community partners than have 10 where we're not being as effective and we're not as, close. So we had 6 kids, because we had a limit of 6 for each week. So 6 kids showed up the first week. They did STEM in the morning, and Rachel did this amazing, she wrote up a whole plan for the UW rowers, and they, Badger Bots donated Legos, so they created prototypes. And then the whole week they worked on these prototypes, and they were solving a lake water problem. And then on Friday, they presented their projects, and Will and Rachel actually came to Mendota and cheered them on. And then we repeated the next week. So it was, how do we do it? I don't know. We just said we were going to do it. Everybody showed up. What I'll say is, and I say this, I think I'm probably driving the UW athletes nuts, but we could not have done it. It goes without saying, we could have not have done it without them. But the level of, and Will talks about this too, is like their cultural competency and their ability to relate to kids and ability to execute programming and their professionalism. I know the people like, think of like I don't know, people go crazy over basketball and stuff like that. I'm just like a rowing fanatic. So like they, I mean, it was, I don't know why I was surprised. Maybe it was I don't know, but they were phenomenal. And they really made it special for the kids. I mean, could you imagine as a kid, like going to the boathouse, to a summer camp, and then like having these like exceptional D1 athletes like leading you and teaching you and coaching you? Like I couldn't even wrap my head around that. That was amazing. So yeah, so we did those 2 weeks. People volunteered and brought food. People volunteered and kind of helped logistically, like, how it is in a boathouse when we're all. And then post those 2 weeks, we offered all the kids who attended the ability to stay at our club and be a part of the junior team on full scholarship. And we had one rower stay. He's still with us, and he's not low-key a beast. He's really fast. Oh my God, he's amazing. So one of the things that happened throughout this is, and what I would say to other clubs is, especially as we transitioned into the fall, there's this model of where we're doing STEM and we're doing like, because of COVID and because of the fluid and dynamic nature of life, we kept having to say to ourselves, okay, this doesn't look exactly like what we planned. This doesn't look exactly like what we thought we were going to be doing, but it's working, and it's working really well. So one of the things that the UW rowers did was, we were really limited on how many people could be in the boathouse when, so we were able to figure out that they could come for an hour after practice twice a week, and tutor the juniors. So every week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, they came. Practice was over at 6. So from 6 to 7, they were there, available. Does anyone on the junior team need anything? So they were helping. So our junior team's really small. So we have some middle schoolers and high schoolers, and they were all together. So we had people getting help with math. They helped people with college essays. They helped writing in general, like you name it, they helped. And they continued that until we had a total shutdown in what is it, like the end of December. So that's kind of how we got to January of 2021. And
Melissa,
I don't know if
can you talk a little bit, just to talk a little bit about like the STEM to Stern plans that are coming up in in spring and summer, and kind of like where it's going?
So now that we're here, sorry, that was like a long, so we are finally putting together programming. We realized last year that the Learn to Row model works. It's reliable. It's predictable resource wise. And because we're still, like, people aren't all vaccinated, we still don't know if we'll be in team boats. We just decided for 2021, we're just going to do this model. So we're going to do the Learn to Rows. We're going to do many more. I think we did 2 last year. I would be surprised if we didn't do like 7, 8. We also, which is really exciting, we're talking to, so I'm the Madison lead. So there's 2 clubs in Madison, Wisconsin. There's Camp Randall Rowing Club and Mendota Rowing Club. And so we're almost there, but we're going to be the first city that has 2 clubs that are working under the STEM to Stern umbrella, working as a team. As I say, they get, everyone's getting, I say put anti-racism over provincialism. Like, we are one team up here, and then when we see you at nationals, we want to beat your butts, but not, when it comes to STEM to Stern, like, we're all working on the same team. So that's really exciting. So we're going to kick off the season in April with a Learn to Erg. And I think we're still going to be in small boats. So we'll, it's evolving quickly, but we have a strong commitment from our club. We've been able to do some good fundraising, and Sam and Evan have been able to help us out tremendously. We've used some of the toolkit that Rachel was talking about. And I mean, we're really excited. I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to be able to actually build some like real infrastructure and real, like, have a gala every year, and start really building on the things that you guys are doing in Milwaukee, once we can get together and really formalize some of these things.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa. Greg, if we can go over to you. I know that, I mean, that you guys are still in the building phase right now, but if you could maybe just talk a little bit about where you are on that, and then just some thoughts kind of overall around the program. Just so everybody knows, Greg Hughes is the head men's coach of Princeton University. He's also the president of the board for STEM to Stern. So he got involved months ago with Princeton, and he'll talk a little bit about that, but has just been so amazing for our organization, connecting us with people, providing us amazing insight, and just has really been part of the engine moving this thing forward. So Greg, thank you for that. And yeah, if you could give a little update on your end.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Will. I appreciate that. It was very nice. Yeah. So it was interesting here. I think for many rowing programs, especially for college programs, our worlds really changed in May and June, and we started thinking about things a lot more. And that was absolutely the case here. And I think they were things that we had thought about, but I'll admit we didn't act on as we now feel we should have. And in our community, I mean, here in Princeton, we are 7 miles from Trenton. It's right here, and we have done some work with Trenton in different ways, but to be totally honest, I feel like we never really got any traction, and that was one of the things that we were struggling with. Was how do we get involved in a way that's actually valuable to the community? How do we actually develop relationships? I think that's one of the biggest pieces that we felt like we were missing. And how do we create access to rowing? Like, not just go into a community and do some work, but how do we bring these communities together? I think those were the things that we were really looking for. And when we came across STEM to Stern, it was incredibly appealing. Like it was a proven model. That's what we saw. It wasn't just talk. It was something that was successful, and the components that they have are so basic and direct, and they're achievable, and you can take them where you need to take them, to any club. And so a little bit of a background in how we're looking at doing it here. So we have partnered with PNRA. Chris Groot and Arlen Bear over at PNRA are amazing. And Chris has done a lot of work with various groups in the Trenton area over the past 7-8 years. And so what we wanted to be able to do was bring our athletes into that network and use a lot of the resources that Mercer has, and also provide an avenue for these middle school students to go directly up to a high school program and have that. So we didn't want to bring them to the Princeton Boathouse and then basically not have anything next for them. That didn't make sense. And PNRA and that community, they've already done an amazing job, and we wanted to help support that in any way we could. The other thing that's very appealing, so if anybody, I saw a question in the chat about the college club partnership, and that's an amazing question. And I'll tell you why this is such a valuable partnership with STEM to Stern. It's targeting middle school kids. And so as a college coach, college program, the NCAA rules around our work with junior kids in the sport of rowing, we can work with them when they're in middle school. Our athletes and we as coaches cannot work with them as high schoolers. And so that was the single biggest draw for us. It allowed us to get involved, not just in the STEM piece, but also in the rowing piece, and be able to make a difference there. And our athletes were excited about that. The second piece for us, which is it's on par, is that there's the STEMs involved. Like, we have a pretty strong engineering program here, and a number of I think easily a third of my team are engineers. And so for those athletes, they were as excited to get to work with kids in rowing as they were to work in STEM. Like that was something that was a huge draw to them. And it was a dual draw when they looked at this place. They could come and row, but they could also have that engineering work. And so that was the appeal for us. Where we're at now in the process, so because of COVID, we were fully remote here at Princeton all fall, so we had no students here at all. They are back now. So in the fall, we were working directly with Chris and Arlen to get the relationship started, and sort of leveraging some of those things that Chris has already laid an incredible foundation with the local area YMCA's. Mercer has created a phenomenal swim to row program already that's hugely successful with the Hamilton YMCA, and so that we've got that already set up as the swimming component set, which is great. And through the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, and a couple of the local middle schools, we are developing those relationships to look for athletes. We're going to start small, because we want to make sure that we can really provide everything and do it right. So we're looking to start with 6 athletes to maybe 10, but we want to keep that group really small and make sure that we don't overlook anything. And right now we're in the process of, we've identified all of the Princeton students that want to be leaders with us. So we've got 8 athletes from the men's and women's lightweight and heavyweight squads. And we're going through training with the PACE Center here at Princeton, which is our Center for Civic Engagement, and they've got a lot of great connections in the Trenton community that they're connecting us with, and helping to get our students ready to go work in that community. So that's sort of where we're at right now.
Awesome, thanks, Greg.
Hey, Will,
yeah.
Greg, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What did you guys come up with for transportation? Well, I don't know if I missed it, but
yeah, it's a great question. So what we're looking at a couple of different options. So we know that the YMCA's and the Boys and Girls Clubs actually have transportation. Cost may be an issue. So I think one of the things that we have been looking at is more, how do we actually cover the costs for things that exist at these organizations? They have the ability to do it, but they might not have the money to do it. And I think that's someplace where, I'm looking at my alumni base, quite honestly, that they're eager to get involved in this kind of stuff. And so we can help fund it. So that's one of the ways that we're looking at doing it. And we also have some local partnerships here, the Princeton Athletic Department with Enterprise, and they're interested in getting involved. I think, we got to solve that one a little bit, because we're not quite sure that we want people driving, our athletes driving around. We're not sure we're allowed to let it happen, plain and simple. So I think we're looking for buses.
And the follow-up question for Sam and Evan: do you guys, Paul Cook and Brown are doing this up in Narragansett, right? And obviously Princeton's doing it. Do you guys, as athletes, do you connect with your counterparts at the other colleges and share your experiences or the obstacles that you're facing, or share solutions? Do you do anything like that where you reach out to each other?
So Paul and I chatted a very little bit a while back, when he was just sort of exploring this, and then he ran with it. And I'm guessing he's crushing it. So, but I do also know that Evan has set up a really awesome network, and he gets everybody that's interested, that's working on this, and it can be anybody, quite honestly. From it could be me, it could be my athletes that are going to be, be the mentors. Anybody that wants to get on it and do exactly that, share issues, problem solve, get ideas. And that's been huge. I think that just to kind of open up that forum.
And I can actually speak a little bit more to that. So one thing, thank you, Greg, for that. One thing that we are sort of working on, as I mentioned before, is that sort of network of STEM to Stern affiliated people. And within that network, we're actually creating a network for the college students to sort of discuss and meet one another and discuss any sort of difficulties that they've had when working with the program, or how they think that we can improve upon our processes to sort of make it a lot more beneficial for everyone. And one thing that Rachel did mention before is that uh, there has been discussions between different colleges. For example, University of Wisconsin and Milwaukee School of Engineering. They've been in contact to sort of facilitate that relationship and basically mentor them in becoming mentors to these middle school student athletes. So it's something that's very much in its infant stages, but as we continue to grow, we're sort of looking to continue to build and expand our network to be more inclusive and kind of connect everyone at every single kind of level.
Yeah, and just to kind of echo that, Chris, I think your question, how are you figuring out transportation? I mean, that is like, that's that's the question. Those are the questions that we are asking and we are answering. And it's different everywhere, and it like is seriously extremely different everywhere. But the same questions are being asked, and it really goes to the same barriers that a lot of kids face. And so one thing that Evan has done is, with this network, we're all asking the same questions. And what's been cool and what will continue to be cool is being able to bounce ideas off of each other, whether that's in Sarasota, Florida, or Tacoma, Washington, or Providence, or Princeton and Trenton. Like, a lot of these things have been figured out, and it's really, that's been, I think, a really beneficial part of this program, is that it's connecting people with the passion to make this happen. And when you have those people in the same room, there's a lot of good that can be done. So yeah.
Hey, Sam, there's a question. Is there a standard community needs assessment for STEM to STERN for clubs to use to determine if starting a program would be a good fit for them?
Yeah. So we have a grant proposal process that we have put together that when prospective clubs want to start a program, or when we approach them, we start filling out this worksheet pretty much. And it breaks down all of the components that are required for a successful STEM to STERN program. And it will also guide the club through the process. It is free to work with STEM to STERN. We help clubs set up the entire program. So it's definitely a process that we go through together. We don't just send them something and say, all right, fill all this stuff out. We'll hop on meetings with them to really nail down every single component that is going to be necessary to run the program, so that when the time comes, we can allocate money towards them for startup costs, and then they don't have to go too deep into a club's own bank account to fund the program itself. So it's not really an assessment, but just a process to kind of put all the pieces together and get a general idea of how the program is going to operate.
And just to add to that, I think the assessment is really looking at your club, looking at your team, looking at your organization. And for rowing, there is so much work that needs to be done. There is so much work that needs to be done as far as increasing access, increasing diversity, increasing the integration of more communities than typically row right now. And so I think, if, as far as like an assessment goes, taking a look at your club, taking a look at kind of where, you would like your club to be. I think that's one of the initial questions that everybody has to ask. Are we happy with what we're doing? Are we happy with, who our club is serving right now?
Will, it's interesting. One of the things that struck me about this in June, but even more so now, is it's so this idea seems so practical, right? It seems like, like Legos. They all, you can just keep putting them together and they build them out as much as you need them, or not as much as you need them. And I feel like if you have a college rowing place, like a rowing team that has a college nearby that has STEM, and a YMCA or a Boys and Girls Club or anything like that, I feel like those are the three the three major, they're
Yeah.
the big level pieces that you step on in the middle of the night and scream. Then you
Totally.
have all these little pieces that you can connect. But those
Exactly.
three things.
And Chris, like it's amazing. Like we get on calls with all these clubs, and we'll be talking to them, and they'll throw out kind of like, well, I may know this person who is, in STEM at a university that may have transportation. And it's like, wait, hold up. Like all of these pieces are like in your community. It really is a question of putting them together, connecting the dots to make sure that the pieces are in the right place to build that effective program. But yeah, I mean, Chris, there are pretty much every conversation we have, every community has something where it's like, well, I know the person who runs the pool in this community, or we have a connection with, a van, like a dealership in this community. Like there are so many pieces that are out there, and rowers are pretty connected people in general, especially people who are like running these clubs. And so, yeah, I mean, Chris, we're on calls, and it's almost like the person, the club we're talking to is laying out the program before we even, talk about the real details of it. So,
Well, Will, I have to tell you, and Greg, you'll appreciate this. As a rower and a father, I was going to say a dad joke that the better connected you are, the faster you're going to go. But I won't say that. That's a dad joke. You'll get it someday, Will. But there's 200 programs, right? College programs, right? Greg, what is there? 130, 135 women's teams, D1, 2, and 3, and then another 70 or so men's. Like, I feel like we have 200 and something opportunities right now to say, okay, where's the closest STEM program? Where's the closest rowing program? And
yeah, I totally agree. And it's just, I mean, look, when I think about this, like, rowing is just the tool, right? I mean, really what this is about is creating relationships and connections and access. But the rowing is it's the tool that puts it together, like makes you think about reaching out to that person, right? Or getting a kid excited and involved. But the relationships are what we end up using and building. And I think you're totally right with the college piece. I mean, it's something, the one thing I know about college kids is they're super busy, right? And they want to be involved in this kind of stuff. They really do. They don't necessarily have the bandwidth to create it entirely. And so I think that's sort of how I see my role. It's like facilitating, and why I'm excited to be involved with STEM to Stern nationally is that I just to show that, hey, this framework, we could actually take it and put it in all of these places. And the goal is, hey, if we can get 6 kids at every single one of those colleges taking strokes, that's huge, right? That to me is my goal. And then everything beyond that, it's gravy. It's awesome. But I think let's start that way and just get people to take the first step and get their foot in the door and go for it, and not try to make some big, huge, bold, overarching thing that's not achievable or attainable, right? I mean, it's like what you guys did in Mendota. Like, you started with 6 kids and you have 1 kid still at it. That's a win to me, man. That is just, it's so cool. And it's like a kid we never would have got. And if we could do that, to your point, Chris, times 200, I mean, how great would that be for our sport and for those kids?
Mathematically, if 200 places got 6 kids, you would double the representation in the sport in overnight. I mean, if you want just a mathematical number, 1,200 kids.
Yeah,
is about where we're at right now in the representation in our sport. I have a question. I have a couple questions that have come through, if you don't mind. Well, one of the questions I got was, you're in a unique spot right now because it's also fresh and it's starting now. What is it? 2018. Are you tracking as you're adding? I see Rachel, you're shaking your head. Are you tracking as you add on new programs? The kids who are interested, and then how many of them? Melissa spoke about retention. Are you also tracking? Are you learning why some kids aren't staying? Are there any consistencies, or are there any trends why kids don't stay, young athletes don't stay, and can you share any of those, or
yeah. And so Melissa, I can also pass this along to you, and I think that kind of back to Greg's point is like we start small and we keep at it and we keep learning, and every club that does STEM to Stern is going to go through the same exact thing where it's like you learn what worked and what didn't, and you learn what worked and what didn't, and you're constantly getting better and improving more and more. For us, STEM to Stern in Milwaukee, we don't do presentations anymore. There is a rowing culture in Milwaukee at two of our schools. And so like for us, it's not a problem. Like retention, we have better retention with our STEM to Stern athletes than the rest of our middle school kids. And then moving up to high school, it's the same thing. Like we have more kids season to season on our middle school team from our STEM to Stern program than the rest of the stuff. So, but it takes a step-by-step process of building the relationships and staying in touch with the parents and the kids and their friends and their families and all of that. And so, Chris, I think, really it's like, as far as tracking, absolutely. We have a tracking system that STEM to Stern uses. But like starting small is how this thing, it just gets better and better and better.
To answer the question of like why maybe there are some kids that we don't retain, most of the time it's because we see them in middle school choose a different sport. We've lost kids to basketball or soccer, or they're choosing something else. It's usually not because they didn't enjoy rowing or they didn't enjoy STEM or they didn't like the experience. It's because they just chose something else. And that's super normal to happen at the middle school age. And I think that's a lot of what happened at Mendota as well. As a lot of those students were involved in other sports. But because our program does such a good job of eliminating the barriers that would allow them to participate, it's a really great way to at least give them that choice. Because in a lot of situations, they don't even have the opportunity to choose between rowing and basketball. It's just basketball.
Yeah.
Well, Will, you had, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Melissa, go ahead.
Will had a really good help, like pro tip for us, in regards to starting small. And because we started small, next month we're going to reach out to all the families who didn't have kids that return. So we are, speaking of relationship building, we will continue to do that. So we'll reach back out and let them know what we're doing this summer, and then probably have a conversation about, what are you doing, and just try to get a finger on the pulse of kind of what worked, what didn't work, and just stay in touch with those families ongoing.
I imagine that's really important. I mean, I know that there's kids that have come out from my team. Maybe the first kid in the family that tried it didn't like, it wasn't for them or for whatever reason, but they might have 3 siblings that are rowers for life, right? I mean, so, but you've made the inroads and built the relationship and the trust so that the next kids might feel even more comfortable. Will, there's a question here, or for anybody. Have you found the YMCA, et cetera, are willing partners?
So I just want to jump on this real quick. So what Greg said when you asked him the question about transportation is the correct answer. That we have a number of different ideas. We've got a number of options. The fact is, when you are doing a program like this, you can't just rely on like one of these pools, one of these means of transportation, because things are so iffy in general. And so we have relied on the Y for sure. And then we relied on a different school. And so I have, in Milwaukee, contacts at like 5 different pools that I know, like if I am desperate, maybe we go to the one that's like 30 minutes north and we're like swimming there for that day. Because like it fell through at a different place. But the YMCA has been amazing. They have bent over backwards to help us out, and they love the program. They love that it's a combined program at the Milwaukee Rowing Club, and they want to see this happen. So they've done everything that they can. That being said, each Y is run separately. We were looking to try to get a partnership with like the Y as a whole, and each Y is run separately. So I mean, we've had great experiences with them. That being said, for anybody who is interested in doing STEM to Stern, we always look at like a number of options just in case we have swimming lessons that plan that day, and the pool that we are planning to use, we can't use it that day. So we try to really like branch out and get into the community in a number of different ways.
I mean, and I can speak to our experience here. I mean, so the Y, both the Hamilton Y and the capital area Y, have been amazing partners, and I think, even at the university level. So when I talk to the Pace Center about all of the different things they do beyond this, the Y is sort of their go-to, and it is really credited to the people running the Y. Like, they have really amazing leadership.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we've seen with the schools. And Chris Groot can speak, to anybody that wants to ask more, because he's done a lot of this. But I know that one of the challenges with sometimes with the schools is you find one really great teacher and people are moving on. And so like that it just comes back to that relationship building, the people you can find that are really great partners.
Here's a question for you. If there's people on here right now that want to help, like, what do you want them to know? Where can they jump in here? Where can they help?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Charlene, for being on the call tonight. Charlene Moore is the executive director of Urban Underground, a nonprofit here in Milwaukee that does incredible work with kids that we are trying to serve the same group of kids and the same demographic. So Charlene is also on the board of STEM to Stern and has just been an incredible resource and guidance as we've begun to grow the program. To her question about what individuals can do to support STEM to Stern, well, I would say there are a few things. So first of all is, if you are somebody who's involved with a rowing club, maybe you look at your rowing club and you say, hey, I think this is something that we as a club need to do. I think we need to, get involved and add to the diversity of our team and really put our efforts into this. And so, to everybody on this call, if you are involved in a program, I would be critical about what you guys are doing. And so be critical about yourselves and your program, and just understanding that inaction has gotten us to where we are today. Lack of action has gotten us to this point. And so if you're on the call and you're wanting to, get involved, this is an awesome opportunity to do that. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, for STEM to Stern as a whole, we are extremely active on social media, and that has been surprisingly effective at gaining corporate sponsors, at bringing more teams into the fold. And so as somebody, for those on the call, resharing, following, liking, all that stuff is really helpful, because companies will see this, and companies like JL saw this stuff and it was shared around, and all of a sudden we're getting an email from JL saying, hey, we want to support the STEM to Stern program. How can we do this? And we want to support the national effort. That's amazing. And we want to continue to see more of those partnerships grow. A lot of that happens on social media. Those are the third thing is really kind of back to what Sam was talking about. There are fundraising opportunities that we are looking to do. We do not charge rowing clubs to work with us. It's free. We make our decisions of if we want to work with a rowing club and if they have the infrastructure to be successful. But we don't charge rowing clubs. And right now, it's a volunteer program, and we are extremely passionate about it. And the board is amazing, and the team is amazing. And, but we're looking for potential funding opportunities. So those of you who, may be on the call and may have connections or things like that, people who may be interested in getting involved financially, that's one of the things that we're looking for. So yeah, those three things really are, I think, the main, unless anybody else has anything to add to that.
Greg, I was wondering, what if we connected, like you as a college have made a decision to be intentional and be part of this. I wonder how many colleges don't even know that this is out there. Like, I wonder if we went to the IRCA and the CRCA and made the connections and had a meeting like this. So if for those of you who don't know, the CRCA is the women's collegiate group that oversees the women's program, rowing programs in the country, and the IRC is for the men. I wonder if that would make some bells go off in people's heads and be like, we could do that. Like, that'd be great, and get things rolling.
Yeah. So, and I actually have done that. So, in our IRA, like the IRA annual call, we discussed it. The EARC call, I discussed it. I'm also on the board of the IRCA, and so I keep it front and center. The IRCA and the CRCA both have DEI committees that do a lot of really awesome work. And I mean, that's honestly, from those organizations, those two committees are like, they're phenomenal. And so I think the word's getting out there. I think it's just, it's also, hey, what's best for that school? Where do they want to get involved? And, this is one thing. I love it. I think it's great. And I want to try to get more people involved. But yeah, we're pushing it. And Chris, like, hey man, speak up about it as much as you get the opportunity to as well. And we'll just keep spreading the word.
We have another question here. Can you discuss what needs to be done from the club's side that supports anti-racism education for current members?
I can jump on this one a little bit. So obviously anti-racism training and the mindset of anti-racism is really pivotal to our organization. It's been part of our mission ever since we started in 2018. It's only become more and more prevalent as clubs get involved. And we've created facilitator training that addresses the issues of anti-racism, and it's also integrated into the training that we plan to give any of the STEM facilitators, because while it's important to have anti-racism training on the rowing side and making sure that you're not committing microaggressions against anyone on your team or doing anything that isolates certain groups or members of your team to make them, it's important to make them all feel included. That's also important to tackle on the education side. So that's something that we work really hard to incorporate into all the training that we provide for all of our programs. And it is very, very, very at the forefront of all of our minds, and something that we constantly work to improve in and engage in conversations with people who are much more equipped than us to answer those questions. So that's a great question. And if you are someone that has resources about anti-racism training, reach out to us. We're always looking to learn and improve in that regard.
And Rachel, just to add to that as well, the coaches of the programs that we are working with, coaches really set the culture of how a club is going to function. And we've been, and that's kind of, as a coach, if you as an athlete or coach, like the coaches are really the ones who kind of set the tone. And if there's a tone of, hey, it doesn't matter, like we're all coming together as a group, and they're the ones who are really like creating that culture of inclusion, of diversity, of support, of relationship building. Like, it's not rocket science. There are some things to be aware of. But the fact is, kids want to be on a fun team. They want to do fun things. They want to go fast. They want to feel good. They want to be part of things that are bigger than themselves. And as a coach, they are really the ones that set the tone of kind of how a program like a really diverse middle school program would be run, or and then up to the high school level as well. So I think coaches really have a big part to play in this.
I was thinking in the movie Remember the Titans, when he says, attitude reflects leadership, coach. Remember that moment? Yeah.
Yep.
This is really good stuff. I'm so glad to have you guys back and join us. It's there was a lot of talk all summer, right? Everybody wanted to help. Everybody, it mattered so much to everybody, and you guys are just doing. like one of you guys said earlier on, you're just doing, you're putting your head down, you're getting to work, and 10 new programs. Like, this is incredible stuff. I can't say enough about what you're doing. Great to see you all.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, and to those out there who are looking to get involved, please reach out to us, like Rachel said, on our website, on social media, wherever. We are really looking to expand this program to change rowing, to change regattas, to change races, and then everyday practice. So we've been really amazed and excited about the progress that we've seen in the last few months, and we're looking to continue that. So yeah, Chris, thanks so much for having us on.